Hey everybody, today we are going to be talking about Bryce Canyon National Park, how erosion and other things play a part into what it is today, and how long it took for it to look like how it is today. So, um, to start, Bryce Canyon is located, as you maybe know, in southwest Utah. It is unique because it isn't actually a true canyon like the Grand Canyon. Instead, it is a series of massive natural, um, rocks carved into the edge of a high plateau, the Colorado one. It is famous for its bright red, orange, and pink rock formations called hoodoos, which are tall, thin spires of rock, which we will get into later on in this slideshow.
So basically a long time ago there was this giant lake sitting right where Bryce Canyon is now, and over millions of years mud, sand, and material just keep piling up at the bottom, showing built up layers by layers. Eventually all that stuff got compressed and hardened into the main rock layer you see throughout the park today. And what I actually think is pretty cool is that color. Those red and orange aren't just random. They come from iron materials baked right into the rock. Same reason rust turns orange. The more iron, the deeper the red. And the white and yellow layers, those come from materials mixed in different times. So the whole canyon is basically just really old, really colorful lakes. Seems that been sitting there for tens of millions of years. After the lake dries up, something called uplift kicks in. The whole Colorado Plateau, and we're talking a massive chunk of land, just slowly got pushing upwards as one giant block, like the ground itself rose thousands of feet over millions of years. It's kind of insane to think about it. And once it was up at that high elevation, the rock was basically exposed to harsh conditions, more freezing thaw cycles, more winds, more water runoffs. The higher it got, the more convenience it took from the environment. That but select the stage for all the erosion that carves out the hills and cliffs we see today. Without that uplift happening, the first none of the cool stuff at Bryce Canyon wouldn't even exist.
Next, we're going to talk about the rock layers, which was from the Claron, which is a lake. Um, the canyon was mainly made from the formation called Claron Formation. This formed about 50 to 60 million years ago, when the area was covered by a large lake called Lake Claron. Over time, mud, sand, and minerals slowly settled at the bottom of the lake in layers. These layers built up for millions of years and eventually hardened into rock. The Claron Formation is mostly limestone, and it is what gives Bryce Canyon its main structure today. The red, orange, and pink colors come from iron in the rock, which makes the landscape so visually striking. Next, we'll talk about the uplift of it, which was caused by the Colorado Plateau, as I mentioned before. Um, as the Colorado Plateau rose, um, it went upward as a large block of land. It wasn't a sudden event, but something that happened over millions of years. As the land rose, the rock layers were lifted to a higher elevation and became more exposed to water, wind, and freezing temperatures, which this is what caused erosion and weathering to really start shaping what it is today. And with erosion, one of the biggest forces of shaping Bryce Canyon is erosion, and especially frost weathering, also called ice wedging. During the day, is this how it works? During the day, water seeps into the cracks of the rock. At night, temperatures drop below freezing, and that water turns into ice. When water freezes, it expands, forcing the cracks wider. Over many cycles of freezing and thawing, the rock slowly breaks apart. This process is especially effective here because of the cold winters and constant temperature changes because it's Utah. And the second part that plays a part into it is chemical weathering, which is like acidic rain. So it's since the Clarion Formation is mostly limestone, it reacts with slightly acidic rainwater, and it becomes acidic when it mixes with carbon dioxide, which is already in the air and the soil. Over time, this slowly dissolves the rock and weakens it from the inside. Even though this process is very slow, it works constantly and helps break down the rock along with physical erosion.
So, hoodoos are these tall, thin rocks either formed by erosion and frost weathering carved into the rock from all sides. If you look closely, you can actually see the layers stacked on top of each other. Different colors, different hardness. The hardest layers on top protects the softer rocks underneath, giving them that weird mushroom shape. Each one is basically a little timeline of sediment built up millions of years ago. And it's not just hoodoos either. Alongside the hoodoos, erosion also carves out nature brings architects and massive amphitheater cut right into the plateau as the arches form where weaker rocks roar away faster than the rocks around it. Even today, Bryce Canyon is consistent changing landscape. The hoodoos look solid, but they're always being so shaped and broken down by nature.
And to conclude, overall, Bryce Canyon is the result of millions of years of geologic change. It started with an ancient lake that deposited the Clarion Formation, followed by the slow uplift of the Colorado Plateau, which raised the whole thing. After that, erosion, weathering, especially frost wedging and chemical weathering, is the thing that started carving the landscape into what it is today. Those same processes are still happening even as we speak, slowly breaking down and reshaping the rock. This means Bryce Canyon is not finished and it is ever changing over time. We especially saw this when me and my partner went to Bryce Canyon and we saw all this up close. We saw Thor's Hammer and many other cool hoodoos and rock formations. It was very cool, and it was just interesting to see how the rocks can do that, like turn to hoodoos, like just from a lake. It's very fascinating. We went on a few trails, we walked around and went sightseeing, took some good pictures. We didn't add any on here, but it was a good time, and Bryce Canyon is definitely breathtaking, which is how we got some of this information is we saw it up close. It was great. Thank you so much. Goodbye.